Hey man, let's cut through the noise. One of the biggest mistakes men make today, especially high IQ men, deep thinkers, or those who just crave meaningful connection, is believing that women want that kind of mental stimulation in the early stages of dating. You think if you show your intelligence, your emotional depth, your philosophical side, she'll feel inspired, awakened, impressed. But here's the bitter truth. Most women do not want intellectual dialogue when they're dating. It's not because they're incapable of handling it. It's because it doesn't arouse them. And when you're in the dating phase, arousal trumps connection every single time. Arousal is primal. It's not created by logic. It's triggered by energy, unpredictability, mystery, polarity. You think, if you sit down across the table from her and unpack a deep theory on trauma bonding, or Nietzsche's views on morality, or the paradox of modern relationships, that she'll lean in. But she won't. She'll zone out. She might nod politely, but deep inside, she's drying up. Not because your mind isn't fascinating, but because your vibe just shifted from masculine to mental. And the more you make her think, the less she feels. And if she can't feel, she won't want. The dating phase isn't about exchanging worldviews. It's about emotional charge, tension, mystery, power. When you start revealing too much of your inner world too early, you become familiar. You remove the sense of intrigue, and women don't fall for familiar. They fall for fascination. That doesn't mean lying. It means keeping your intellectual depth tucked away like a concealed weapon. You bring it out only when she's earned the right to see it, not when she's just a pretty stranger trying to decide if she even likes you yet. You've been lied to by modern culture. You've been told women want open communication, emotional vulnerability, and long conversations about feelings, goals, and inner wounds. What they really want is a man who makes them feel something without trying to explain everything. It's not about the words, it's about the vibe behind the words. A man who can say very little and still create emotional impact is far more powerful than one who uses 10,000 poetic sentences to communicate his truth. You are not here to perform intellectual gymnastics. You are here to hold a presence so strong that she gets lost in it. You must understand this. Women already have intellectual conversations with friends, therapists, books, podcasts, social media. What they're starving for is masculine energy, calm dominance, nonchalance, control. That's what lights them up. That's what makes them want to be around you. You think you're impressing her with your mind, but all she's feeling is a man who needs to be understood, and that's a turnoff. Because the more you explain, the less you lead. She doesn't want to understand you. She wants to feel led by you. Here's what no one tells you. When a woman meets a man who starts talking too much, too soon, she senses a neediness underneath it. Even if your words are high value, even if your tone is confident, the fact that you're over-explaining, over-disclosing, or trying to build intellectual rapport signals to her that you're trying to earn her, that you're trying to win her with logic. And no matter how high your IQ is, it will feel off. Because the most desired men don't try to earn a woman's approval with ideas, they command her attention with energy. There is a reason why mysterious men, quiet, controlled, present, get swarmed by feminine energy. It's not because they have nothing to say, it's because they withhold it. They don't overshare. They don't volunteer their past, their pain, their theories on love and politics. They let her wonder, they let her guess. And that wondering becomes desire. She imagines layers, she projects depth, and the more she imagines, the more she invests. You kill that effect the second you start giving her the full transcript of your inner monologue on date 1. Masculine power is not in expression, it's in containment. It's in knowing that you have depths of thought and complexity, but you don't need to show it to be validated. You don't need her to know how smart you are. You don't need her to hear your trauma story. You don't need to unpack your goals in 25 steps. You just need to be there, still, grounded, teasing, playful, focused. And if she earns her way deeper into your life, then you can share more. But only after the emotional container has been built, never before. Most men fail at dating not because they're bad guys, but because they try too hard to connect in the wrong way. They bring their therapist energy to a seduction arena. They bring emotional openness to a moment that requires masculine restraint. And when the vibe gets heavy, she checks out. She'll say you're great and sweet and mature, but you'll never hear from her again. Because you didn't turn her on, You gave her a friend, a coach, a confidant, and that's not what makes her crave a man, that's what makes her feel sorry for him. So here's the rule: no intellectual deep dives, no philosophical monologues, no trauma sharing, no abstract emotional theories, unless she asks and has already earned that part of you. In the early stages, your job is to spark attraction, not build a friendship. You flirt, you tease, you lead, you guide the vibe, you show her that you're fun, grounded, hard to shake. And when she starts investing more, that's when you gradually unfold. Not because you need to, but because you chose to. And that distinction changes everything. The danger of diving deep too early is not just that it bores her, it burdens her. When you start talking about the struggles in your family, your past heartbreaks, your existential doubts, what you think is intimacy, she feels as weight. A woman wants to feel light, swept away in a man's confident, composed energy. When you start handing her emotional baggage in the form of deep conversations, she starts seeing you as someone she might need to fix, rather than someone she wants to follow. And nothing dries up feminine energy faster than being placed in a therapist or mother role. A woman is most aroused when she's in flow, not in analysis. She wants to feel a wave of attraction, not sit in a philosophical classroom. She's drawn to mystery, not a PowerPoint on your worldview. When you enter the early dating phase with "here's everything about me," you rob her of the journey, and women fall in love during the journey. The process of slowly getting to know you, of feeling pulled deeper, of uncovering the unknown. Give it all too soon, and the game is over before it even begins. She'll respect your intellect, but she won't desire it. Some guys misinterpret "don't have deep conversations" as act dumb. That's not the message. It's about understanding timing. You can be deep, but you must lead with energy, not exposition. Let your eye contact, your pauses, your smirk, your leadership create that sense of depth. Speak less, but say more with your presence. She'll sense your mind by the way you listen, the calm you radiate, the restraint you hold. The more you reveal without speaking, the more she's drawn to find out. And that magnetism is 100x stronger than any long-winded story about your philosophy degree. You have to remember that in a woman's world, attraction is largely emotional and energetic. It's not cognitive. That's why she can say she wants a guy who listens, who talks about his feelings, who's emotionally open, and then fall head over heels for the guy who says almost nothing but exudes quiet confidence. Because that man creates sensation. He bypasses the brain and goes straight to the body. And the body doesn't lie. It responds to vibe, not vocabulary. When you master this, you'll start to notice how women chase the men they don't understand, not the ones who explain everything. When a woman is in front of you, scanning your body language, decoding your silences, wondering why you're not talking about yourself endlessly, she's becoming invested. You've sparked curiosity, and curiosity is the foreplay of obsession. But when you tell her everything, your beliefs, your wounds, your dreams, before she's earned a place in your life, she loses the urge to explore. There's nothing left to discover. She doesn't feel like she's unlocking you. She feels like you're trying to sell yourself. And high-value men, they don't pitch, they attract. The modern world has created a plague of oversharing. Social media, self-help culture, and conscious dating advice have turned dating into a therapy session. Men now think emotional vomiting equals vulnerability. But true masculine strength lies in composure, in revealing only what serves the moment, not hiding but choosing, not dumping but discerning. You don't have to share your every thought to be real. You just have to be present. And paradoxically, the less you say, the more powerfully you're felt. And women feel men far more than they understand them. You want to build desire? Learn to speak with intentional restraint. Answer questions playfully. Turn serious moments into flirtation. Let her pull information from you over time, not hand it over like a resume. Every time you resist the urge to go deep, you create a little more tension. Every time you redirect the conversation to lightness, to play, to teasing, you're keeping her in the feeling. And the longer she stays in that emotional state, the more likely she is to associate you with desire. You're not avoiding depth, you're mastering delay. And that makes all the difference. Let me be blunt. If she's not already deeply attracted to you, your meaningful stories will feel like neediness, like you're begging her to see your worth, like you're trying to earn connection through revelation. And women don't reward effort, they reward energy. That's why the guy who barely tries, who barely speaks, who maintains his own frame, gets more interest than the man pouring his soul into every text. Because the first man feels secure in himself, the second feels like he's auditioning, and nothing is more unattractive than a man trying to be liked. Masculine men move the frame, they don't enter hers. That means you don't conform to her desire for endless talking. You guide the moment. If she says, "Tell me something deep about you," you smile and say, "That would ruin the fun." If she pushes, you give her a taste, but only a taste. You let her earn the next level. That teasing resistance creates power dynamics. She can't explain, but can't stop craving. Because now she's chasing your approval, not the other way around. And that shift changes everything. So if you're a deep man, a smart man, a thoughtful man, good, but never lead with it. Lead with grounded energy, with calm eyes, with confident silence. And only after she's invested, after she's shown consistency, after she's dropped the games, then you show her your mind. Because now it's not validation seeking, it's a gift she earned, and she'll treasure it more than anything you could have said on date one. Because you didn't give it to get her, you gave it because she already belongs there. Most men think being interesting means being informative, but in dating, being interesting means being unpredictable. Not giving a lecture on your worldview, but sparking a fire in her imagination. The man who answers her deep questions with a smirk and says, "You'll have to earn that story," will always outperform the man who says, "Well, it all started when I was 14. Why? Because the smirking man leaves her thinking about him later, wondering, replaying the moment. It's the mystery that lingers, not the monologue. There's a masculine elegance in revealing nothing and still being unforgettable. Women remember the men they feel something around, not necessarily the ones who said a lot. In fact, many times they'll walk away and say, "I don't even know much about him, but I can't stop thinking about him." That's not an accident. That's what happens when your energy, your presence, your essence is stronger than your vocabulary. That's the man who gets remembered. That's the man who gets desired. The truth is, when you're too available emotionally, she starts to feel emotionally responsible for you, and no woman wants that. She may say she wants a deep, emotional man, but that only applies when he's already a rock, already grounded. If she senses that your identity is tied to her reactions, that you need her to understand your thoughts, your struggles, your beliefs, she checks out. Why? Because hypergamy doesn't desire a man it has to carry. It desires a man it has to earn. The problem with meaningful conversations is that they often reveal your wounds before you've shown your worth. You think you're being vulnerable, but from her perspective, you're bleeding in front of a stranger. And what's worse, you're asking her to patch you up. That doesn't inspire desire, it triggers defense. She doesn't feel safe with you, she feels burdened by you. And when that happens, she doesn't walk away because she's cruel. She walks away because she doesn't feel feminine around you anymore. What many men don't understand is that emotional intimacy has stages. Just like physical intimacy, you don't start with everything at once. You build it slowly, with patience, with pacing. That's why the most attractive men give glimpses, not novels. A quick moment of truth, a line that reveals depth, then they pull back into presence, into grounded masculine clarity. And those glimpses, they echo in her mind for days. They become obsessions. Because you didn't flood her, you stirred her. When you try to impress her with intellect, you're making the classic male mistake, assuming she wants logic over sensation. But women aren't built that way. Even the smartest, most educated woman is first and foremost feeling driven. That doesn't make her shallow, it makes her feminine. And the men who win with women understand this. They don't try to be right, they aim to be felt. Their tone, their energy, their subtle confidence speaks louder than any story they could tell. Because they know the golden rule. Attraction starts in the body, not the brain. This is why you'll often hear women say, "We had such great conversations, but there was no spark." What she's saying is that you connected logically, but not emotionally. You stimulated her mind, but not her instincts. And instincts are what matter in attraction. You want her stomach to flip when she sees you, her breath to quicken when you touch her, her thoughts to scatter when you look at her. None of that comes from deep talks. It comes from how you carry yourself while saying almost nothing at all. So if you want to truly stand out as a man, stop trying to be profound. Be present. Stop trying to be deep. Be discerning. Speak less. Look more. Listen not to respond, but to read. Pick up on the energy. Control the pace. Let your calm silence dominate the space. And when you finally speak, let it be felt more than it's understood. That's what creates real tension, real mystery, real magnetism. That's what makes a woman obsessed. In a world where men overshare, over-explain, and overcompensate, the man who says little and does more is a rare force. He's the man she fantasizes about. The man she tells her friends she can't figure out. The man who walks away mid-conversation without apologizing because he doesn't feel the need to explain his every move. That man has power, not because he's cold, but because he's composed. And women melt for that kind of man. Every single time. So if you take nothing else from this, take this. Stop chasing connection through conversation. Start creating attraction through presence. Let your energy say what your words cannot. Let your mystery build slowly. Let her feel like she's stepping into a movie when she enters your orbit. And most of all, let her earn the layers of who you are. Because when she does, she'll value them 10 times more. And you won't just have her attention, you'll have her devotion. The hard truth is, men are desperate to be understood because they've spent their whole lives being ignored. So the first time a woman seems interested, they open the floodgates. Trauma, childhood stories, fears, dreams, it all comes spilling out. But what they don't realize is that attraction dies the moment she feels like she's your emotional therapist. You're not building intimacy, you're bleeding need. And once that happens, she doesn't see a man anymore. She sees a boy looking for approval. Women want to feel drawn in, not dumped on. They want to earn access to your world, not be handed the keys for free. When you unload everything too soon, you kill the chase, you smother the mystery, and worst of all, you make her feel like you have no one else to turn to, which signals scarcity, not strength. The most attractive men carry a certain emotional solitude, a quiet that says, I'm good with or without you. That's the energy that hooks her. It's seductive to think that being real will win her heart, but the game doesn't reward vulnerability until after respect is earned. Emotional openness is a privilege, not a tool. And women know this. That's why they test your frame before they trust your words. That's why they flirt with chaos to see if you flinch. They don't want a man who spills every thought. They want a man who controls what he reveals. That restraint, that discipline, that's the aphrodisiac. When you lead with your mind, you invite comparison. She starts stacking your ideas against others, your beliefs against hers. It becomes a debate, not a desire. But when you lead with your vibe, she can't analyze it. She feels it, and feelings are where feminine desire lives. She doesn't fall for your ideas. She falls for your effect on her nervous system. Your silence that lingers, your gaze that penetrates, your words that arrive like thunder, not because they're loud, but because they're rare. Don't mistake this for manipulation. This is mastery, emotional intelligence, understanding the psychology of attraction. You're not hiding who you are, you're timing your revelation. You're building intrigue, you're pacing the story. The same way a great movie doesn't start with the twist. A great man doesn't start with the sob story. He sets the tone, he creates the atmosphere, and when the moment's right, when she's fully invested, he lets her earn the privilege of knowing what moves him. A woman isn't attracted to your resume, she's attracted to your riddle. The contradiction that you're strong but soft, distant but warm, playful but composed. And the only way to embody that riddle is to speak with less, but move with more, to let your actions create tension, to let your silences pull her closer. That way she's always guessing, always wondering, always feeling like she's chasing a man who doesn't need to be chased. That's the magic formula. If she feels like she knows everything about you in the first week, you've lost. Because the feminine needs to explore, she needs to unravel. She wants to feel like she's slowly discovering hidden chambers inside you. Not because you're playing games, but because you're not desperate to be seen. You're not performing for approval. You're just living, calm, centered, self-contained. And when she sees that, her attraction doesn't just grow, it obsesses. In the end, it's not about what you say, it's about how you make her feel while saying it. And when you make her feel mystery, presence, depth, and detachment all in one breath, she can't forget you, she can't label you, and because she can't define you, she chases you, because her feminine chaos is craving masculine containment, not through dialogue, but through dominance, not through stories, but through stillness. The biggest mistake men make is assuming attraction is verbal. That if they say the right words, tell the right stories, or prove how deep they are, she'll finally choose them. But women don't fall in love through logic, they fall through energy, through curiosity, through the thrill of the unknown. And the moment you rob her of that, by explaining yourself, justifying yourself, or showcasing your soul, you become another predictable man in a world full of weak ones. So remember this, the man who gets what he wants from women isn't the loudest, the smartest, or the most emotional. He's the one who says the least, but leaves the strongest impact. He doesn't chase connection, he creates contrast. He doesn't explain his story, he becomes her mystery. And because of that, she'll come back, she'll lean in, she'll want more. Because in a world of men who talk too much, he made her feel something without saying a word.